Welcome back to the Millennial Outliers podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Justin Deal, with my main man, Pots and Pans, Tyler Ardron. How we doing, brother?
Doing awesome, bro. Back in the saddle. It's been a little bit.
It feels so good. I know you guys probably think Tyler and I are together all the time, but truth be told, with families, with businesses, with everything we have going on, this is really probably the one staple where we definitely get to see each other each month. So always glad to be with my guy.
I'm with you.
But today we have a great young special guest, our good friend Fred Hess of Hess Financial. And we can't wait to dive a little bit more into his story and talk. So, Freddie, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. So let's kick it off. A lot of times I like to go back, right? I like to talk about the past a little bit to start. I actually don't know a lot about your upbringing. It was only like 6 years ago for you. So,
very true.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like family dynamic, what your parents did for a living, and maybe some of the lessons you just learned as a child.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually get that a lot. A lot of business people that I know, I don't talk personal a lot. I don't really love talking personal a lot, but I mean, I will for the sake of this. But
well, you better.
Say if not, you're canceled.
I guess there's not a whole lot of content. We'll wrap it up now. Yeah, I get that a lot of times. That I know a lot of people in the business world, and they're like, I don't know anything about you. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, actually thinking about it, I don't either now.
I know some highlights that we'll talk about, but I don't know what made Freddie Hess Freddie Hess.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, going all the way back, my parents were, they had me when they were in high school. So very, very young parents, super not prepared for parenthood. I mean, look at me now. That's like me having like 10 or 12-year-old kid right now, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Like I could not imagine. I got the 5-month-old at home, and that's hands are full.
So they're young. Yeah. They're young grandparents too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Super young
that's awesome.
So growing up, I mean, we moved around a lot. I mean, they weren't dealt the best cards to begin with, so they kind of made do. They wound up splitting up shortly after I was born. Went and lived with my mom. Grew up blue collar family. Working class family. Like I said, moved around a lot. Burlington County, Camden County, mostly South Jersey. Ultimately put down our roots in Chemung.
And then, so what? So you went to Shawnee?
Seneca.
Seneca. All right. So you were, that's right. You're younger.
Yeah,
That's a brand new school bill. Yeah, fair enough. And then what did your mom do for a living growing up? What?
So she worked like administrative jobs for construction companies a lot of the time, and my dad was also blue collar. He works in the union, doing sheet metal over in Philadelphia. So, but blue collar background.
Okay, awesome. And what would you say, any lessons, like what did you see? Obviously, I would assume perseverance is probably a big thing under your mother being somewhat of that, the single mom, raising 100%. A child, working in an administrative job. Construction's not the most straightforward, right? There's a lot of gray area there, and it's an interesting crowd of folks you're working with.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely got my work ethic from both of my parents because they're definitely hard workers. Yeah, a lot of that.
And that would take us into school a little bit. So we'll fast forward, we'll jump, like, were you an athlete in high school? Were you involved in clubs? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, definitely athlete. Jumped around a lot of sports when I was younger, but ultimately landed on soccer was the main thing. And that was like, every league I could get in, travel, school, soccer was pretty much my life growing up.
Okay.
Football, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
You look like a soccer player.
Yeah, absolutely. Got the bill for it.
Yeah. So, you went to, I'm guessing you went to college, obviously, right? You're a CPA.
Yes.
And what though, even if it was before that, like what got you into wanting to be an accountant? Because you hear accountant, right? And you're like, most of the time, they're sometimes boring people.
They're a little dry.
They're a little
you're
dry.
my favorite people in the world. Don't let them talk about you. But
he's right.
Socially, we'll just say not always. They're not bringing the energy to the room always.
Yeah.
That's
and then also, it's not really like, if you look at the average age, it's probably over 55, 60 maybe. So
you're a unicorn in these times.
And
it's all down.
And you definitely have more of a personality than a lot of accountants I know. So what gravitated you towards, being an accountant?
Yeah, so it was actually in high school, funny enough, and it is kind of funny that my parents were more like blue collar and somehow I fell into accounting. Yeah, like totally. My personality is so far different from theirs, and very strange. But in high school, I was 16. I was just looking for a job at the time. I knew I needed to buy a car and I needed to put gas in the car, and that was all I was concerned about. I would have taken a job anywhere.
Yeah.
But I was actually taking my first accounting class at the time, and my accounting teacher at the time kind of caught wind that I was looking for a job. And she had been teaching for a long time. She had another student that she had taught 10, 20 years ago that actually graduated, went out, started his own firm, got a CPA license, started his firm. And he was still locally right around the corner from high school. So she connected me with him, got me the opportunity to, after school, after soccer, go over there, do some administrative stuff, some bookkeeping stuff, just kind of get me in the business world. And like I said, get me a car and give me some gas. That's all I was looking for. But funny enough, that would lead into where
your
I'm
career.
at now.
Yeah. So was there anything like while you were working that you're like, I want to do this long term, or was it more of just like, I'm doing this now, I'm pretty good at it, I'm just going to keep going with it?
The car gas tank's full, got the car paid for, I'm good right now.
Yeah, I know that was a lot of it, but I mean, I've always been a numbers guy, always enjoyed it. I was enjoying the class that I was taking a lot at the time. I did also enjoy the work once I started it. So I definitely saw myself continuing along that path, and I didn't really have interest in much else at that time. So it was kind of a stick with it. And the more that I stuck with it, the more I saw the opportunity for it. So yeah, it just kind of happened.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're now, I guess, fast forward, you got that job, you're in high school. Now it's time to go to college. Where'd you end up going to school? How was that experience? Give us some lessons that you might have took from that.
Yeah, sure. So what I wound up doing was actually going to community college right out of high school.
Smart.
So I was able to stay local, stay home,
stay cheap.
I had a lot of money. So that was a big factor, not put myself in a bunch of debt, which I was very much against.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I wound up going to community college for 2 years, got my associates. Then they had I don't remember the name of the program, a 2+4 or something like that, where they connected with a couple other local colleges, where we were actually able to stay at their campus and the teachers from the other colleges. So I wound up getting my degree from Wilmington University, which is in Delaware. Teachers from Wilmington would drive up to the campus in Mount Laurel, right around the corner here. And then they would actually teach us, get our credits from them, get our degree from them. But again, I could stay home, stay local, and continue to also work my job because I was still working at that accounting firm at the time.
Right.
So kind of stay local, keep costs low, kind of that same mentality. My bachelor's degree and ultimately my master's degree through the same program.
Nice.
Awesome.
Now, at what point did you realize you're working for somebody else? You're going to school. When did it click in your head? You were like, I feel like I can do this for myself.
Yeah. So obviously I started entrepreneurship very young. So once I was in college, I continued working for that accountant that I started with in high school through the rest of high school, part-time after hours and weekends when I could. Then going into college, I actually, the week I graduated high school, I started full-time, 40 hours a week at that accounting firm, and also added college on top of that.
So you were 40 hours a week.
Yeah, 40 hours a week.
Going to college at the same time.
Going to college at the same time.
Yep.
Which is, I'll jump in there real quick. Get your thoughts together for a second. That's been a very common thread I feel like we've heard from a lot of the folks that we've had here is a lot of people take on an entrepreneur's schedule before they step into the role, right?
Yeah.
So, we had Anthony Bott on not too long ago. He talked about that he was doing high school and college classes and working. And you realize a lot of times people are getting themselves prepared and kind of war ready for what it is. And sometimes they don't realize it, right? It's just that season of life that, he's in school, but he also wants to have some nice things, and you have to work to have some nice things. Like college isn't just going to provide things on top of, the knowledge and the paperwork that you get at the end of the day that says you're a finisher. So he was really stepping into that role before he probably even had the inkling in his brain that, hey, I am going to do this for myself.
Yeah, 100%. I always had that entrepreneurial mindset of the one thing that I did get other than the work ethic from my parents was that they always told me, like, we don't know what we're doing wrong, but we're doing something wrong. So just don't do what we're doing. Like, go out, start your own business, do something different, try something different. So that was kind of always in the back of my mind. Like, I want to eventually do this. And I kind of took my first steps into that in real estate. I started investing while I was still working full time. I bought my first investment property when I was 19 or 20 years old.
That's awesome.
Yeah, continuing going from there. But
so let's actually jump into that real quick, because that was going to be my next question for you anyway. So that was one of the most impressive things that I remember from one of our first interactions was the fact that I believe you were living at home still, but you had like 3 rental properties that you were running, and you were like looking to buy your first home. So 2-part question. A, what even got you like interested in real estate? And B, who were you having conversations with, or what was the big picture you saw that you were like, I'm going to have a rental portfolio before I own something? Because it's a very impressive thought process for a young kid to have.
Yeah, definitely. So I stumbled into, anyone in real estate probably knows the Bigger Pockets podcast. That's the big thing. I stumbled into, I don't know, a forum or something with that, led into the podcast, led into books, went down this huge rabbit hole. And I kind of discovered at that time that I had a huge interest, and still do, in real estate. So just reading through that, again, my financial education was very minimal at that time. But just using those resources that were available to me, it was kind of going through what other people would do, or if they could go back, what would they do? And the point I was at, I was 18 years old, and I said, all right, I want to buy an investment property, so let's try it. And I wound up, funny enough, I had read a book that specifically was about acquiring rental properties, building a rental portfolio. And I kind of made a mental decision, like, okay, I want to do this. And I closed the book, opened up my phone to Facebook, and a realtor that was in my network had posted, I have a investor selling his whole portfolio. Reach out to me if you want a rental property. I was like, okay, I'll reach out to this guy, see what it's all about. And next thing you know, I'm under contract the next week. So it kind of just happened really quickly. And I think it was just me knowing that I had a desire for it, but also taking action, because that's where most people stop. Is they decide they want to do something. I'm going to talk about doing this business. I have this idea. I want to do this investment, but then they never actually do it. And I took literally immediate action within minutes of closing this book. It was coincidence. It was luck, whatever you want to call it, but I actually took action, and that's how it actually started.
For sure, I would call that the preparedness. Sorry to cut you off there, but there's that. Tom Brady has a great interview where he talks about this, and he says that the greatest champions are always the most prepared. Yeah. And that's what you did, right? You started to lay the foundation to be prepared, and then an opportunity presented itself. So had you have done none of that work and none of the action, the reach out, opportunities just don't come that way, 100%. Right? And you knew what you were looking at. Being a financial guy, I assume you could run some numbers and figure out, is this even worth me putting my money in, or am I going to take a bath through this? So that's very impressive that you went through all that and figured that out. So let's get back to the accounting side of things. Sure. So again, you're a young guy. You have a super young face, which is a great thing. I hope that lasts forever for you. How did you get through that hurdle? Because I remember when I started my business, I was also young, and everybody treated me like I was a kid. So how have you established yourself as a credible expert in your field, with obviously that pro and con that you have there?
I mean, being young when I started definitely didn't help, and looking young made it even worse. So I still get that judgment to this day. I am still pretty young, but so pretty much I had that idea that I wanted entrepreneurship, and I wanted to go along that path, and I didn't want to work for someone else for the rest of my life. So I was working through high school, through college, working full time for this accountant. It wound up. There's kind of two different sides to the accounting industry. There's the public and the private. The public being doing taxes or bookkeeping or whatever the service is for individuals and businesses. And then there's also the private end, which is working internally in the internal accounting department of a company. So I decided at that time, I definitely want to be in the accounting industry, but let me try this private end, since I've just been doing the public the whole time. So I wound up leaving that firm that I was with, found a local construction company that had a controller that was retiring. So I came in, got trained by him for a year or two. Ultimately, I wound up taking over for him. And by the time I took over, I was like, I definitely don't like this. I don't know how I got here, but I don't like this. I need to go back to the public accounting end of the industry. So at that time, I really had a choice of either had got my bachelor's degree. I was starting on my master's degree, and I could either go Big Four accounting firms, which is like the big thing to do in the accounting industry, or I could take a crack at self-employment, try and build my own book of business. And I had a discussion with the owner of the construction company and said, hey, that's the route I want to take. I want to try this out. If it doesn't work, I'm still in college. I can get my master's degree. This doesn't work out, and I'll go Big Four anyway. So that was kind of always plan B in the back. But I had that discussion with them, and it kind of allowed me to build up a book of business on the side and scale down my hours with them part-time. So it was like the most conservative approach to becoming a business owner possible.
You got up and running.
Yeah, I never really had a time where I had to make a huge investment, or I had to go without income. Or my risk was always low, which is the accountant in me. But I was able to transition. I think at the end, I was working like 5 or 10 hours a week for them. I just wouldn't let go.
Getting that hourly rate.
Yeah. Right. Hindsight, I should have left way earlier, because I could have got the business further, way quicker. But that risk aversion that I had.
Well, I guess that's a lesson right there, right? Absolutely. Like knowing when to break off and go full force into that, new business.
And when you burn the ships, right?
Yeah.
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 I mean, if you have an employer that's all right with it, and you're not directly competing with them, and you have the ability to scale back, I would highly recommend that to see if entrepreneurship's really a fit for you. But yeah, once you're starting to get a little bit of traction, cut it off and jump in.
And go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also helped that, you were probably 22 at the time or something, 21?
21, yeah.
Yeah. So that helped too. Like, whereas if you're 33 or even if you're your age now, right? You have a
Sure.
family, you have a mortgage, you have a kid,
It's way harder.
it's a lot harder to say, I'm going to just break off and go, self-employed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Scary.
Yeah.
So
for
stay
sure.
on so strategy that you were just talking about a little bit. So now you're working on your own. You don't have this other, kind of gig helping to offset financial issues and things like that. How did you start to differentiate yourself from everybody else, right? There's a million accountants out there, public, private, all the things. Like I said, the big four on down.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you start to kind of establish yourself in this market?
Yeah, it took me a long time to figure that out, like years to figure out. And that is probably like my greatest feat. And if I looked at historically, like the growth of my company, when I did figure that out is probably when we really took the biggest growth step for our company. But in the beginning, I was really, honestly, just a commodity service. I was really just preparing taxes for anyone who needed taxes. And if you had a company and you wanted your books done, we'd do books. And our value was we would be cheap on price. That was kind of the value we would add, which is not a good business model. Would not recommend doing that.
Yeah. Never.
But that's how we started. I didn't know. I was 21 and had no idea what I was doing.
They say yes to everybody, right?
Exactly. Yes, I was a yes man, but no more. So as we were continuing to scale and I got to the point where we had a lot of work, I had to start hiring more employees. I was like, this business model doesn't work. Like, we got to have way more clients per employee than it will ever make sense to possibly do.
Right.
So that's when we started exploring new options. And what we ultimately found was that there was a huge need in the business industry for business owners who are looking to pay less in taxes. A lot of accountants, they're that commodity service, and
Number
they're
crunchers.
55 plus, they're number
Do the tax
crunchers.
return.
You give them numbers, they punch it in, and they're done. There's no value to the service that they're providing, and it's just a race to who's the cheapest because they're all providing the same thing.
Right.
But once we got into that tax planning, world,
Creative
essentially,
accounting.
creative
I like to
accounting,
say.
that's a real value that we're adding that other people aren't. So that was our big differentiator, and when we saw the biggest growth in our business.
Love that, because I think a lot of people miss that. Like, when I talk to different partners, like even pensions compared to like 401ks, right? I mean, you're capping yourself at 23.5 when it could be 69,000. Then you get in higher plans where you can put up to like $3 million in some of these plans over years. And to Freddie's point, a lot of times your typical accountant, it's data in, data out, right?
Yep.
They're not taking that CFO type role. They're not, having meetings with you, asking, how cash flow is going, what the goals of the business are in the years to come, when you would maybe like to retire, what your succession plan is. And it sounds like that is the margin or the gap that you started to fill.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I was always impressed by you, with our payroll company was like, we try to become famous locally first and then kind of go on that national level. But you're just crushing the state of New Jersey. At least last time we spoke. I don't know if you've expanded, but speak a little bit on that, how that started and kind of how it's going.
Again, another lesson that I had to learn was I started local, only went New Jersey. I tried to go really wide and went the whole United States, and that was not as successful. So like you said, kind of becoming king of your local market is the lesson that I learned that's better, at least in my experience.
Yeah, so you like having more of the quality of a client that fits everything, is willing to pay. You line up with what they need and vice versa, rather than I'll just take a million people paying me $25 a month for whatever.
Exactly.
All right, I love that.
Yeah. So with we went over the age of you starting your business and how, in accounting, that age can be looked at as expertise, right? So you have to battle that hurdle, but internally, you just went over, like, you have employees now. So how many employees do you have? And then two, like, take us through that journey of getting your first employee, getting employees. My guess is most of the time they're probably older than you. Yeah. How does that dynamic work? What have you learned, through that whole thing?
Yeah. It's pretty funny. I'm 28 now, and I'm still the youngest person at my firm.
Exactly.
and I've never hired anyone younger than me. But
yeah. So what's it like, managing people who are older? Like, how does it go?
Yeah,
day to day?
well, first on the business side of things, when I started this firm, I was 21 years old. So try being 21 years old, working in the finance industry and giving advice to business owners who've been doing this a lot longer than you, are a lot older, and they're like, "Who's this kid trying to tell me?"
That have kids older than you as well, right?
Often, yeah. So that was a huge hurdle to overcome, and honestly, it came down to two things. I mean, number one, actually knowing what I'm talking about. That's obviously important, and number two, just having the confidence behind it. I mean, I've been on dozens and dozens of calls where they won't work with me because I'm young. I can tell usually within 60 seconds of a conversation just by their facial expressions that they're judging me for being my age, especially when I first started. But I just never let it bother me. I just had the confidence. I knew what I was talking about, and I knew that our business was a good solution for them. So that was never a factor to me. So I don't think that that's really a big obstacle. I don't think that there's an industry outside of the finance industry that would be more difficult to be young.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, insurance is in that same kind of thing. And I started the company when I was 23. So same idea with the, this kid's talking to me about how much I should cover my house for and all this stuff. He probably doesn't even have it. Which I did at the time. Yeah. But to your point,
like I've been working with my old broker as long as you've been on this earth, kid. Exactly.
Right. So, I definitely see that. Now take us with your employees and how that's going.
So believe it or not, I really haven't had an issue with my employees. I mean, number one is hiring right in the first place and making
100%.
sure that, they're a good fit for your company, good fit for your culture. And a lot of the people that I've hired have been, 40 years of age or older, and coming in and, I'm half their age as the owner, as the manager. But I would say similar principles of just, having the confidence, being a confident leader. I know what I'm talking about. It's not like I'm going into meetings and having them, they need to lead it because I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just having that knowledge, having that confidence, and just being a leader as you should be anyway as a business owner.
Now, how are you finding the employees? Are you hiring people yourself? Are you outsourcing? Is it just through word of mouth?
Yeah, at this point,
Craigslist.
So Indeed, for just putting up job ads through Indeed has been our number one source. But believe it or not, my best hires have been referrals from existing employees who have been happy with working for us.
Yeah.
They have friends, family, they refer in. Always the best hires.
Yeah. And a lesson there is like a lot of companies, and even we're starting to look into it, offering incentives, if you recommend an employee over for that same reason. And I mean, it obviously works because one, I have experience with it in our companies. We have family that work for us, and I know Justin does too. And then, on that same vein with that, incentivizing them to bring in the right person. And it's like twofold where, one, that person's only going to recommend them because their name's on the line, right? So they're looking for like legitimate good people. And then, on the flip side, now your culture, you have this person's brother-in-law, this person's it's that really family culture that most businesses want to, aspire to be to. But I think there's definitely a reason, like all these big companies, I know one company does it specifically, Toyota, like big companies like that, they'll pay their employees $1,000 if they cited a good employee. And that, from the company end of things, and what we're looking into is like $1,000. Like that's nothing if we get the right employee, because if we make a wrong hire, and you kind of went over that hiring right the first time, making a wrong hire you can lose thousands of dollars on that when you factor in time, all that stuff. And I've actually recently learned that even more in the last couple of years, just because as we expand and grow, when I opened up the company, we had at the time 7 employees or whatever. Now we're up to a total, all of our companies, around 70 employees. But because of that, we now have to protect ourselves more. So, for example, 5-6 years ago, if I didn't make a right hire, I got rid of that person that day. I was like, all right, sorry, I'm going to have to let you go, blah, blah, blah. But now, we got to be careful with that type of stuff. There's warnings and all, you know what I mean? We're more legitimate now. So what that creates, though, one, it's good. It creates this protection for us, but it makes it tougher to fire. So it makes it more critical that when we're hiring, it's that right person,
I think that, okay.
I could speak on that too, because that's another lesson that I had to learn recently was I had two employees that I did have to terminate eventually, but me seeing the good in people, and I tried to,
Been there.
salvage it, tried to train them, coach them,
Been there.
months and months of time invested into them to try and, right what was wrong. And
Yep.
I should have just cut it off. I've heard the
Slow
saying.
to hire,
Yeah.
quick. I was just
Quick,
gonna say
yeah.
slow to hire, quick to fire.
Exactly where I was going.
I've been in your shoes, dude. I'm sure Justin's probably been. I've been in so many times where it's like, listen, this person's a good person.
Yeah.
They're just not doing what I need them to do. I'm going to work with them. But like, yeah, I've learned the same thing over the years that if there's not the drive there, if there's not the want there, they could be a good person. They're just not going to be a good person working for me.
So actually talk a little bit about that, because that's one of my weaknesses. I don't hire at all because I'm a people person. I love people. I see the best in them. I see what they are possibly capable of, but it almost never lines up with what they're actually willing to do.
Yeah.
So what are some things when you're hiring now, since it sounds like you're doing it, and word of mouth or not, there's obviously an interview process. What are you asking, or what are you looking for a lot of times with people? Like, can you articulate that, or is it a sense?
I mean, it's a lot of sense, a lot of gut. And I mean, we're a virtual firm, so we're also interviewing virtually, which makes it even more difficult in the hiring process, because, it's a lot easier in person to get a feel for someone. But we do a multi interview process. So it goes through my team first. I have them meet with two independent interviews with two of my senior staff first to go through them. And if they both vet the potential hire, then I'll speak with them. And if all three of us come to the conclusion that, this is a good fit, they went through, enough questions, specific enough to understand that they have an understanding of the industry, understanding of what we're doing, and they might be a good fit for the position we're looking for. If all of us agree on it, that's kind of the additional layer that we've recently added. But even more so beyond that, once they are actually on board, we do like a 60 or 90-day trial period. And we have KPIs set up and metrics that they have to meet, and making sure that they are hitting them. So this is something we didn't have set up, in the beginning of the year, and when we went through the turnover recently. But now we have these metrics set up where as soon as something's off with the KPIs, then we need to take action. And if it doesn't get back on track, then we just got to cut it off, as opposed to trying to salvage it for months and months and months.
And that's the beauty of a 30, 60, 90, right? It's like it's very transparent. Now, myself and the new hire, we have a clear objective of these are the things that I need you to reach. These are the milestones. And if you don't, it's a much easier conversation than when you're kind of in the beginning. We did the same. Like, you're just spitballing these things at them. Like, these are the things you're going to do. This is what the job description looks like. And then a month in, you're like, why aren't you doing X, Y, Z? And they're like, well, we never discussed that. I don't even know how to do that. And you're like, oh, crap.
Yeah. But having those KPIs in line is, that's massive to have, because then you can gauge how they're doing and everything. A lot of times businesses don't even, won't even do that, especially for like lower entry employees. But the problem with that is that lower entry employee can be with you then for 6 years doing a crappy job. You don't even know it. And, that's why having those KPIs are important. And another thing that I recommend on that, and we just started doing it last year, is disc profiles. So, sending that to potential hires beforehand. We use one that's so simple. It's kind of crazy. It's like, it's 100 words, and you just click what you think like you are. And like,
I've taken them before.
It's kind of like insane that way. When it spits out, you're like, that is me. And granted, listen, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if that's like, I'm just saying that because that's, you know what I mean? Kind of like the whole, what is the Gemini, Taurus, and all that stuff, the horoscope. I always say, like, when people are like obsessed with that, it's like you're gravitating to, you're like, oh yeah, I'm a Taurus, but you're gravitating towards it because like you fall in that range, and you're just reading things out that you probably, if I replaced it with someone else, like whatever, Scorpio, you'd be like, oh, I do that.
If I was like when we were talking about my mother with the tarot card readings and stuff, right? It's like, it's a very generalized, but it sounds specific. Like, they're very good marketers.
Yeah, you're like, I do that. But anyway, with that, then you could, because what you could do is we tailor the profile to what we're looking for in that position. So if we're looking for a sales one, right, we're looking for a leader, we're looking for someone who's outspoken, confident, all these different things. And then, they take this disc assessment, it comes back and it's like, no, this person isn't really a fit personality wise for a salesperson. They're more of, and they're categories. So like one would be like a research type person, right? Which you might fall into being an accountant. Our accountings in our office, generally fall under those, profiles. But it gives you an idea because, you can talk to them virtually and stuff. It's difficult to get that out of people. Whereas like this kind of gives you a little reassurance, like, you know, oh, I am looking for a salesperson. This is exactly the type of person I'm looking for. They filled it out. It meets that criteria. It's just like another layer of this is the right hire, you know?
Yeah. One thing I just want to circle back to and make sure that the folks listening don't miss is when we're talking about culture. So I feel like this is such like a buzzword. People use it all the time. But I think the vast majority of businesses miss the mark on what real culture is. So at no point did any of us discuss snap pods or pajama wearing or allowing your pets to the office. It's like those aren't the things that build culture. It's letting your staff know that they are the backbone of the business. They are the most important people that keep the wheel turning, and that you understand when they have family emergencies or they have doctor's appointments or they have something that comes up. The fact that they have elbow room at the table and they can bring things up and they can be comfortable to have tough conversations or throw in their 2 cents, that's culture. Yeah. That's what then allows them to go to the world and say, I love working for Tyler or Freddie or Justin. And if you're looking for a job, you should work for them. And there's no better stamp of approval than you can get from a good employee who's bought into the culture. So just want to make sure people didn't miss that.
To add to the culture, I actually, last week, I joined a new group. It's an entrepreneur committee, it's called, and it's about 14 other business owners. And we have one meeting a month, and we focus on like an issue with one of those business owners. But then we also have a speaker, and the speaker spoke to culture, like I said, last week. And one thing that he said that kind of stuck with me was, if you don't, as the business owner, build that culture, and, you know, this kind of plays off what you were saying, Justin, where it's like, oh, sometimes these buzzwords, people like push it aside, like, culture, whatever. But it's a reason it is. And what he said was, if you as a business owner or your manager or whatever, if you're not building your culture, the worst egg in that room will build the culture for you.
Absolutely.
And that stuck with me because I've gone through that. I've gone through where, you know, we've had one bad egg and then it spills over to people who are great employees for me. And you know, when it comes to that point, like, you got to get rid of that as soon as possible. And a lot of people compare that to like the sports analogy as well, where you have that, you know, diva receiver, right? You're losing, right? The team's losing, and now this guy's bringing everybody down. What it does though, it's very true. And cause like I said, I've seen it firsthand, but like that negativity starts to spread. And I saw, like I said, firsthand where, you know, this employee was going around kind of just doing things like, you know, I don't think you're making enough money, or you're working your butt off, or you're doing stuff. And then what was happening though, like with my good employees who do work their tail off, they were then saying, I'm not making enough. Why am I working so hard? You know what I mean? Like, they start to question it because this guy's in your ear all day. So kind of, I just wanted to touch on that whole culture thing and how like critical it is. And, you know, when it goes into that negativity and everything, like, you got to cut that head off as soon as possible, because
that cancer spreads quick.
They're going to build that culture for you, and people aren't going to be happy working for you.
Yeah, there's a study on that. I don't know the exact, people can look it up though. Alex and Layla Hormozi talk about it all the time, is sitting close to a high performer or to a low performer. And a high performer will take an average employee, and let's just say they'll do 1.5 times what they would typically do next to the high performer, where a low performer will literally, I think it's like 3 times less work. Like,
that's wild.
It just completely obliterates them like rising up and doing anything more. So it is important. Like, unfortunately, the part of business is there's always a lower 10%. You always have a bottom 10% of your staff. The goal is that bottom 10% though is obviously still bought into the culture. They're team players and they're good at their job. They're just unfortunately not as skilled as everybody else on the team. So I think we crushed that culture segment right there. Take that one to the bank.
Yeah. So let's transition now. You're a CPA, Fred, right? So it's cool because you're doing your own work, right? But you're in like all these other businesses' financials, right? So you get to see like the back end of a construction company. You get to see the back end of, let's say, a payroll company, an insurance company, all these other businesses and everything. So like, when you're doing that, what lessons have you learned from, like, you know, oh, this guy's screwing up in this industry or whatever, or vice versa? Like, this guy's killing it with this
because of, you know, X, Y, Z.
Right.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, honestly. I mean, number one, it's really cool to work with the variety of business owners I work with because I get to meet some really cool people who do some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But seeing the challenges that all of these different businesses have, it's so industry dependent. But when you look deeper into each industry, uh, all of the same business owners in the same industries have the same problems. And it's like
That's
we
interesting.
work a lot in the construction industry right now. I would look at our book of business on the construction industry right now. I'd say like 80% of them are really struggling with cash flow right now.
I was
And,
gonna
and
say
our,
cash flow is
cash
definitely
flow is killing them right now, and
Interesting.
especially the commercial ones. There's just
Yeah.
a huge constriction right now on payments. They're taking way longer. It's not coming
Yeah.
through. Funding's tough. Getting funding is tough.
Yeah.
And even for them to try and get lines of credit or anything like that to kind of carry them is even tough to do right now.
Mm.
So
You think this, this is just new news, but you think these rate cuts might help with the construction industry at all? I'm asking selfishly for myself because we sell a building product. So
doesn't
and
it not? That
we are a little lower than where we need to be right now.
yeah, I mean, it can't hurt them. I'm
Yeah.
hoping it helps them, but it definitely can't hurt more than where they are now.
Yeah.
do you find that is it? I mean, I don't love the way that their industry's set up just with like having money on the street as long as they do. I don't understand that, but that's neither here nor there. Do you think a lot of folks don't realize that cash flow is the oxygen of their business? Does it really just boil down to that simple statement a lot of times?
It really does, and a lot of them don't understand too that like how important that is. Like they're like, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I have no money. It's like, well, you have all these receivables, and if you get them in and turn around receivables quicker, then you're going to have profit. You're going to have cash flow. Ultimately, is what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that industry specifically, yeah, that's something that's missed out on a lot.
So with that, and this is just more of a question that I have, is that because they're like, what are they doing on average? Like, are they doing a huge like net 90 days on their AR, or are they doing like a net 30?
So the
or-
companies I'm seeing that are struggling the most with that specifically are the ones that are working on large commercial projects. They're usually a
Yep.
subcontractor, so the GC's got to get paid. The GC's got to pay them.
Yep.
So they're typically 90 days is average, but them actually getting paid in 90 days is pretty slim to none. And
Oh,
then
wow.
they don't get aggressive with following up, and they're just, oh, it'll come when it comes, and it's
Yeah.
well, that's
You
why
got people to pay.
that's why you have cash flow issues.
Well, then
yeah.
that's always what winds up happening. So the kind of the trickle effect of that, right, is now they go to run payroll and they NSF and they don't have enough money for it. So now it's like they have the bank calling them for payments, they have us calling them for payments, and then they're finally like, oh shit, I should probably start reaching out to these people or get a collection agency. But the
You run into
problem for
that a
that
lot?
is which part?
The
NSF.
part, where you're
I mean,
you're
I've-
trying to pay your clients' employees, and you can't do it because they don't have enough in their account.
Yeah, I
Does that
mean,
happen a lot?
I have a banking and NSF department in our. It
Wow.
happens. I mean, we have 4,000 clients now, so every day
Yeah.
we have at least tens of, if not sometimes like 100 people that NSF us.
Wow.
So it can happen. What happens in the payroll side of things is we still honor the direct deposit, so we pay your employees because.
So you take the hit?
Yeah, well, so we're insured for it and all, but we're going to obviously pay that. And the hope is like we have an agreement and a partnership. So you need to run payroll next week. So you got to square up with me before I run a future payroll, or nobody's getting paid next week. And now, as you can imagine,
So you have like a 1 week thing, and then
well,
next pay-
you're not gonna run your next payroll if you owe me any dollar amount, right?
Yeah,
Unless
right.
I have enough money in taxes on the back end that haven't been paid that'll offset
can
that
use that.
liability. Then it's like okay, but if you NSF next week, like now we have to have a tougher conversation.
wow.
And it depends on the dollar amount. Like we just had somebody NSF us for over $100,000, and like then I need a bank
Jeez.
wire, and it's like people you got to figure it out.
Have you had people just be like, go after that, I'm out of business, and just not pay you? Like,
Yeah, we have a list. So every Friday on our management calls, like that's what part of what we go over, who the outstanding NSFs are. And we have 3 that are smaller dollar amounts that have been like 2 years that just haven't. And we're only
Guy
talking a
just
couple
disappeared.
grand. They just, they stop answering calls. And it gets to that point, you're like, do I want to give 25% of that money to like a firm to go harass
after
them
it.
all the time and collect it? Or do we just write it off as a loss? And a lot of times, if it's low enough, obviously that's what the call is.
wow, interesting.
Yeah, not to hijack that portion.
Yeah. No,
But,
I have questions myself on that.
yeah, no, it's definitely it's something everybody deals with.
Yeah.
So let's talk about tax season. So that's obviously your favorite time of year, right?
I don't know if I'd say favorite.
Nothing better than dedicating 4 months of your life to just
I
constant
don't know. Fred,
craziness.
it's like 6 months, I feel like.
well,
dude,
anymore.
with
Ever since the
extensions.
pandemic, I feel like the pandemic kind of ruined tax season for you guys,
Everybody
especially
extends now.
those 2 years. Well, yeah, nobody seems to get the information on time. So have you? I've noticed a lot of the accounting firms have gone to like portals to allow their people to upload stuff rather than old school was like everybody actually showed up and
Tax
you sat
organizer.
down with every single person with
With a piece of paper.
Yeah, with literally they come in with this bucket of paperwork.
I like
for
the
you.
old school, to be honest, but
Well, it's nice to get the FaceTime, I'm sure, but
It's got its
efficiency,
Yeah.
it's like maybe some of your high end clients you still have in, and then for the average Joe, it's like
just
give
use
me the
this link.
paperwork, let's use the
Yeah.
portal. So speak
I'm
on
an
that a
average
little bit.
Joe
What is
on that. I've seen the portal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm fine with the portal.
We have some of them, but yeah. So I guess that's kind of the benefit to being, a younger entrepreneur, a younger accountant is I've always been, a huge advocate on the technology. So from day one, we've always had all those things in place. And actually, we were always a virtual firm too. I never really had a storefront.
You have a building though, don't you?
I do have a
Fred?
building. Honestly, it's just there for me to go work in quiet. And if I do
That's
need to
interesting,
meet someone
yeah.
in person,
Yeah.
I mean, I
'Cause
got
it's
a
a bigger
reception
building,
area.
isn't it? It's like on a corner. I
I
thought
mean,
because I
it's
think I
like
went.
500
That's the one
square
I've been
foot.
to, right? It's a
Yeah.
solid size
Yeah.
for what he needs.
Yeah.
It's got a reception area and a private
Yeah.
office, and that's.
I thought you guys were working out there. I didn't know
Yeah.
you were all you
No.
were all virtual.
Especially with a baby now, you don't want everybody showing up at your house and
Mm.
stuff. And we don't
No
need
way.
Joe to get mad at everybody.
Yeah. So I mean, we got the office, but everyone works from home.
Okay.
My last few hires have actually been out of state, down in Florida, up in New York.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
we're not sticking to just. A
So
local
you're putting
area.
your Indeed ad.
We're staying East Coast, so we're staying our time zone,
Okay.
just so we don't have to
Okay.
deal with that obstacle.
So you're putting it out though.
but
to
the whole
yeah.
coast, and that has exploded my my talent pool.
Your
for
reach.
sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Reach has been phenomenal. Salary has been substantially less than our area too.
you
So
get down south. Yeah.
better
Yeah.
quality staff for less money.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting
Huge
because
win.
Yeah.
I'm on the flip side where we're in person Monday through Friday,
Mhm.
normal business hours and everything like that. But it does make it difficult to hire because we're looking for somebody with this expertise in this area. It makes it difficult.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it makes it difficult. It could take a couple months to
Yeah.
find, to find somebody. I imagine with you, you do the whole East Coast, you probably get like 50 resumes.
I spend more time going through resumes than,
I'm sure.
than
Yeah.
the actual interviews. Yeah,
Yeah.
The toughest part is finding time to go through all of them.
Right.
But
right,
after
right.
that, there's usually like a dozen good applicants from a week's worth of searching, and then you do your interviews, and you're good to go. So
Yeah.
hiring process has been pretty quick. But as far as being the virtual firm and with the pandemic and everything, we were always virtual. We always had the technology. So COVID was actually really an excuse for us to really continue doing what we were doing and have clients already acclimated to that because they were so used to going in person, used to being all paper, and we were trying to push onto them that we're a virtual firm. We don't do paper, we do portals. And that wasn't the norm for the industry, but now that it has become the norm because of COVID, that benefited us
perfect.
greatly.
Yeah, it made it perfect for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you opened up right before COVID, right?
Yeah, I started the business in 2017 when I was still working part-time, working for the company full-time. So
Yeah.
I wound up leaving that job actually March 2020 when pandemic finally came.
Whew.
Yeah.
You did you do it during was this after the pandemic or was it just by chance that you did it in March?
So the company that I was working part-time for, they had to completely shut down operations.
So then that's when you're like, all
So
right.
that's when I was like, this is a good time for me to go. So that was kind of the
Hey,
little
go
push
all
that I
in.
needed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, that is awesome.
So I'm going to ask one of your questions because it's a good one. I just want everybody to see this. Ty guy, super prepared today. We haven't used most of these because we are an off the cuff, but I saw this one and this is something I wanted to speak on.
something out there.
It's a little something,
Just a
so
little
there's no
something.
dead space. So can you share a financial strategy that a lot of entrepreneurs might overlook that can help them with profitability? And it can be very general, obviously. This is not a recommendation. This is
Hold on, let
not.
me get my pen.
This is zero compliance on this show. We're not holding you to it.
Well, this is going to be the most biased recommendation ever, but hire an accountant that's actually doing strategy for you, and your taxes are going to be one of your biggest expenses for your company as a
Yep.
business owner. You're not getting a paycheck, you're not having payroll taxes withheld, so you are responsible for paying your taxes. 99% of the first year business owners that we talk to, they come to us because they didn't hire an accountant. They went the whole year. They wound up making great money. They think they're doing great. And
Yeah,
then they
pay
get
half of
slapped
it.
with a huge tax bill the next tax season.
Yeah.
So
Been there.
accountants will pay dividends for themselves. And if they're doing the strategy, it won't be an expense to your business. They should be saving you more than it's costing you.
I wholeheartedly second everything you just said there. And I always tell clients a good accountant is going to sound expensive up front, but what they do on the back end, they're going to pay for themselves
back.
10 times over. They're going to make
Yeah.
it back and some. I mean,
Yeah.
when I connect clients with a good CPA that they're not used, that they kind of came from a big firm that they were doing nothing, you get a phone call after tax season. They're like, holy shit, Justin.
Dude, I
Like,
got a
I've been leaving
refund.
this stuff on
Yeah.
the table for years.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm glad you understand what I'm saying. Like, you think I'm an important connection. nothing compared to what the account really is. It's a huge part of the pulse of your business to understand it, because the vast majority of entrepreneurs don't understand finances.
Yeah. So some biased advice, but good advice.
But it's,
I mean, to
it's
entrepreneurs'
honestly great
credit,
advice.
like our tax
It's a
whole
living thing.
situation in this country is like, it's insane. Like there's all these different deductions. Like it's so crazy that like you got to be a CPA to know that stuff. Like, you know, you can't just be an entrepreneur who's successful in all these different businesses, but there's still the tax side that like, you know, it's super technical, and you got to have someone in your corner, you know, like yourself, that can direct you and help you plan throughout the whole year. Not just like you said at the end of the year. A lot of times, and firsthand experience, that's too late.
Yeah. And Fred and I have done,
you know, a month left of the year. I'm like, all right, go buy a SUV. Remember?
That's most people.
I'm glad you just said that. I was just say Fred and I have done some seminars together, and that's like, you know, we cover the three basics: the Augusta rule, the vehicle tax
6,000
credit,
pounds.
and then the child tax credit.
Yep.
And the amount of people who don't know that, and the amount of money they're leaving on the table for something so simple, like none of those are, it's not super complex. You don't have to jump through all these like loopholes and hoops, and it's just, they are what they are. And if you have kids, if you buy the right vehicle over the right weight, and if you know, rent your house out to yourself for board meetings, all simple things to do, those are all tax deductions. And if you have somebody who doesn't tell you those simple things, I'm a payroll guy, not an accountant, and I know those things. So if you have nobody in your corner who's doing that, you obviously don't have a good accountant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, 100%. So, Fred, we actually met, I believe, in Harvest.
Yes.
Or I might have met you before that, but we did meet during COVID, because I remember we had, you know, 1-to-1, we'd be on Zooms together, and I meet you in person. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like tall. I didn't imagine him being tall, which a lot of people experience in COVID. You get in person with the, you know, because you're like envisioning someone in that little window, and then you see him, you're like, I didn't imagine you being that way.
Well, to be fair, everybody's tall compared to you, though, Ty guy. Sorry, I had to get a
Thanks,
shot in
dude.
there. I had to get a little shot in.
Rough.
No, he's right. He's right. But so on that same topic with the harvest and everything, I've talked to you about other things that you've done in the personal development side. So just share with us like your journey on personal development. And, you know, that's another thing. Like you went with the entrepreneur stuff, but you also embraced like personal development at such a young age where, you know, at most kids at 23, 21, 22, they think like they're God, you know, they're not like going to a personal development coach or none of that. So like kind of what got you to that point where you're like, I need a coach, or I need to get into that world more. I mean, it sounded like you were reading, you know, books at 18 about real estate. So even like that, like what got you there?
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak on that. I don't know. I guess I have weird interests. I like real estate. I like business,
cool.
and I don't know. I liked reading, and I like podcasts and, you know, YouTube videos. So that was just my personality. I don't have much for you on that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, but back to the original.
So what got you into, you know, coaching and
and
I know you go to seminars, like you've traveled for different speakers, and I know there was like a CPA that was like real
Tyler
success.
McBurn,
He's the best.
I'll plug him.
So so what made you do all that?
I think it was just really me surrounding myself with the right people. I was really fortunate. I mean, I can remember the first business professional that I really ever met that was big in the networking scene around here was Jim Butts. And I met him because of my real estate, because I was investing in it. He just happened to do one of my mortgages, and he happened to ask like what I do for a living. You know, he found it was pretty strange that a young kid was buying an investment property. So he dug in on that a little bit. But he really connected me to that world of business networking. So once I saw that all these other people were out here and they had the same mindset as me, same beliefs, you know, they wanted the same things that I did. I was like, this is way better than, you know, what I'm used to. What I saw growing up, like this is what I want. Yeah. So I think it's really about just getting yourself around the right people was the biggest factor for me.
Yeah. 1,000%. Cause, you know, it shows you when you're around higher level people, and we've talked about on the show multiple times, it shows you what you could be capable of.
100%.
Right? Like you're around people that are buying, it becomes normal. You're around, you know, we flip houses, right? Or we buy rental properties. That's normal to us. But if you're in a room where that's like unheard of, you know, and you're with just like a construction guy or whatever, they're not talking about that stuff. So like you thinking about it seems weird to you.
Yeah.
But when you're in a room like with entrepreneurs and stuff, like that stuff just gets thrown around, and it's just, you know, normal. That's you think everybody does it.
And that was a huge, honestly, probably one of the biggest challenges of me being a young entrepreneur would be, you know, all the friends that I grew up with, and I still have, and I'm still close with, but it's like I found myself, you know, as I was building the business and seeing success with that, like
drifting,
going into rooms with them, and I'm like, I don't have anything I want to talk to you people about.
I think I could probably say Justin's went through it. I know personally, you know, I've went through that. You know, my high school friends, awesome people, you know, but that's a product of we were in sports together. We grew up together, right? Not what we want in life, right? So, you know, for my example, right, with that, you just start to drift apart, and you kind of got to go to people where your you know, values and everything align, what you want in life align, and that stuff, you know, starts to kind of drift apart to where, you know, unfortunately, I might only see him once a year at our fantasy football, you know, fantasy football, and even when I'm there, it's like I don't know what to, you know, like. I don't know what to talk about.
They think
like
you're bragging.
Yeah. I don't. It's like
context.
Yeah. Right. So I think most entrepreneurs have gone through that, you know, in life.
Yeah.
So I have one question about the future. So you're in an industry specifically, right? All the big guys are gobbling up the medium-sized guys. Medium-sized guys are buying the little guys. Is that something that you have in the, like, again, you're young, so even a decent-sized buyout's not going to have you set for life. Do you have plans at 10, 15 years down the road, maybe being open to a buyout, or are you just trying to grow this thing? Like for me, I have this question all the time as well. And it's like, I want my kids to work with me, and I would love to pass that off to them and see this be a 3-generation business. But yeah, what are your thoughts now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm young. I got a lot of time to retirement. So exiting the business or exiting the business world in general anytime soon is definitely not on the agenda. So definitely massive growth going forward is the goal. Eventual exit plan, kind of like you said, I just had my daughter a couple months ago, planning to have another soon, hopefully.
Just keeping Jody out of work as much as possible, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But kind of seeing, let them grow up and decide what they want to do, and if accounting is the world that they want to be in, I want to give them that opportunity, and it's also not going to be something I'm going to push for. I'm an advocate of entrepreneurship and real estate investing, and that's what I believe in and what I'm going to instill in my kids. But I want to give them the opportunity if they want it, and if they don't, then I'll just exit when I'm ready.
Because thankfully they'll have a good CFO / accountant as their father to help them open that business.
Very true.
That's great to hear. Now, why don't we, I mean, that flew, honestly. That was, see, that just shows how outgoing and good conversationalist Fred is. Most other accountants I spend an hour with, and there's a lot of teeth pulling there. So why don't you kick us off with the final question?
For sure. So, Fred, give us a mistake or something, a hurdle that you ran into, whether it be in the business world, your personal life, wherever, but like one of the biggest lessons that you took from that. So something that happened that was, say, a negative, but looking back, you were like, that's one of the best things to happen to me because I learned this.
I'll give you this, and it's maybe not exactly along the lines of what you're asking, but so I, uniquely enough, met my current wife in middle school, and we actually started dating when we were in 8th grade.
Woo.
So yeah, we what was that, 13 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've been together since then. So that was something that is tough, especially when you're in college and it's like you might have a girlfriend, whatever. But I can guarantee that I would not be where I am and would not have accomplished what I have accomplished if I did not have her by my side the whole time. She did the same thing I did. She stayed home. Stayed local for college, worked full time through college and went the low cost route. And that allowed us to build our life together and our family.
Foundation.
That foundation starting young. And, it was hard to do, through high school, through college, but looking back now that set me up for success to where I am now.
Man, Joe, clip that and send that to his wife.
That's exactly right. But no, I'm glad you said that because we do constantly talk about that on the show is who you decide to marry and create your life with is literally huge. One of the most important decisions you can make.
100%.
If you have somebody who's not going to champion you, who's going to question everything that you ever do, they're just going to be negative, you can see how your growth would be stunted there.
Even an anchor that is, bringing you back.
Absolutely. Yeah. And on the same, just in a different way, though, it's also proof that things that are worthwhile are worth the investment, right? So Freddie gave up partying and crazy, I'm sure there were some fraternities or whatever.
Dude, them CPA fraternities, they get wild.
No, but I'm, on college campus.
I'm kidding.
There were things and there were opportunities that he could have been tempted, but he had a great girl at home. He saw a future with her. He saw the way that she pushed and supported him.
Yep.
So it was worthwhile to give up, invest, sacrifice, however you want to say it, those types of things for now the future he has. I mean, he's a young guy who's built a great business, just started a family, has a real estate portfolio. I mean, I would be honored if my kid, did all of that stuff, and hopefully they will.
Yeah.
But right, it's like your parents have to be proud of that. You should be very proud of who you've become as an individual, as a
100%.
family man, leader of your community, and all the things. So, with that said, we greatly appreciate you being here with us today.
Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
so-
real quick,
Okay.
where can people find you, Fred?
Yeah, online, our website is hessfinancial.us. That would be the best place. We're on all the social media platforms too, but website will get you to all those places.
Awesome.
We'll have that in the footnotes. And as always, friends, we appreciate you being here with us. And as always, have the best day ever.
Best day ever, fam.
See y'all soon.